Good morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the carving shop, and this will be session 3 of carving a magnum pair of cork-bodied Common Goldeneye decoys. And in the previous sessions, we got the birds all cut out. In the last session, we got the head shaped. In this session, we'll focus on finishing up the bodies, really finishing up the carving of the pair. And so I've been enjoying this series. I hope you're getting something out of it. If you are, please consider hitting the subscribe button. That does help me out. It's free. I'll keep it that way. But it is a show of support for the channel. It's an encouragement to me if you would do that. It does help me out if you hit subscribe. Thanks for that. Let's get right to finishing up these birds. Welcome back. All right, this morning I used the X-Acto to kind of shape up the eye, do some side scraping, and then a little bit of sanding to blend the epoxy sculpt into the surrounding area. Those are looking good, so now I want to shape up the body. All right, I'm going to start with my 3/4 inch saber-tooth burr with a round nose, and this cork is very dusty material, and even with good dust collection equipment, at least the equipment that I have, a lot of dust does not get captured. So I definitely have my respirator on because my shirt sleeves are going to be covered in cork dust when I'm done here. So I'm just rounding the breast. I'm also touching that seam and removing any excess epoxy. And now I'm going to go back and begin rounding the body. That's an area where I just filled in the hole that I had in the bird from tacking on the top-down pattern. And I just used a little epoxy with cork in it to touch that up, fill the hole. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly because this carving of the cork goes pretty quickly. It's relatively soft material, so it doesn't take long to shape the bird up. And I'm just focusing on rounding at this point, rough rounding. We'll come back and put some definition around the side pockets, but I just want to get material out of the way here to begin with and rough round the bird. You can see I'm pushing that away from me, and that's a less aggressive carve than pulling it towards, at least with the rotation of my particular unit. So I'm working to round that breast, put a little bit of separation between the breast and the side pocket feathers, coming back down off the cape here. Removing the excess epoxy. Okay, I'm going to speed this up so we can get through it a little quicker. A lot of this is just repetitive. So I'm at 2 times speed on the video here. That's not very helpful that I got off screen, but it happens when I'm my own videographer here. So I'm just rough shaping the bird, getting it rounded, and then we can do some layout work because I do want to put some definition in the side pocket area. Okay, a little further along, and now I want to work on this rear section and round the coverts here. And again, use the tip of this burr to remove some of that remaining epoxy at the seam. I'm going to leave my center line intact there so I don't lose the profile of the bird. And these primaries are just going to be painted on, so I'm not raising the primaries at all on this bird. Since it's a gunning bird, I want to keep it nice and clean and strong. You can see that epoxy area, and with the cork dust that I put in the epoxy, it kind of creates a nice way to fill these up, the joints between the cedar tail and the cork body. Finish shaping up the tail. Again, taking off the excess epoxy. And I'm putting a little bit of bevel on the tail edges so that they're not sharp edges that are easily damaged with if they bump into something. Starting to shape up now. I'm just going to remove some material here underneath the tail here and shape up that rump section. I'm not doing a lot of undercutting of the bird. I want to keep a nice wide profile in contact with the water so that it rides in a very stable way. And generally, the wider the body is, the more easily it's going to handle chop and wave in the water. Same thing underneath, just cleaning things up here, so I'll just jump ahead a little bit. There's a good quick view of the rounded body, and now we can do some layout work. Okay, I've got the body rough rounded, and now I want to put a little definition around the side pockets, the cape, and so I've used my pattern and my dividers to transfer these dimensions onto the carving, onto the cork there, and I'm just going to carve in these side pockets, a little bit of a cape, a little depression in the middle of the back, and that's about it. All the detail back here will just be in the paint, since this is a gunning bird. By the way, just a note, I normally don't attach the head until after I shape the body, and I was reminded why I do that because in my carving setup here, I don't have a lot of room. And so with the head on there, and especially a magnum bird, it was just kind of getting in the way. So if I were going to do it again, I would carve the body, then mount the head, just FYI. All right, now I'm going to use my 3/4 inch cylindrical saber-tooth burr. This is a fine tooth burr, and put some definition in the side pockets here. So I've got my plan view down, drawn on, and my side view, and I'm using the edge of this burr to dig in and hit both of those pattern lines, and then I can go back and round once I remove enough material here. So I'm just following that line, hitting this side profile, and then working the top-down view as well, and then I can begin rounding the scapular area here after I'm sure I'm at the right dimension from the top-down view. And this really goes quickly. It's one of the benefits of cork. It's a tough, durable material. It's lightweight, and it's also pretty easy to carve. So it makes for a great gunning decoy. I've got the scapular rounded there, and now I'm going to round the side pockets a bit. I'm going to cut just a little bit under the rear of the side pocket here to put some definition in that area, but I don't want to undercut that too much. Just a little bit to throw a shadow there. And now I can round the side pockets. You don't have to work very hard with this cork. It takes kind of a light touch because it's easy to remove too much material too quickly. So I'm putting a nice rounded look to that side pocket. And that's starting to shape up. Now I want to define the cape a little bit here and put a little bit of a depression in the middle of the back between the groups of scapular feathers there. Not much, just a little bit. This is a better view of the cape work that I'm doing. I like the cape to be raised just slightly over the scapulars because they overlap the scapular feather group. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go ahead and show this because we might have a little better view of the carving in this direction. Again, I'm working the plan down view line and the side profile line. Once I have those set at the proper depth, then I'm rounding everything from that point out. Jump back over to that other side, and I do this a lot, is just as my eye catches something that needs attention, I'll flip the bird around and do a little carving over there again. Putting a little roundness in the cape so we don't have too much of a hard line up there. And now going back to the other side pocket and getting that carved in there. Now that I have those cut to the proper depth, I'm rounding the scapular area here. We don't want to leave a big muscular shoulder here. I want to carve that down, trim it off so that it's tucked into the side pocket. The bird doesn't have big muscles in that area, but I see a lot of carvers leave too much wood up in that. It's not really a shoulder, but it's where the edge of the wing tucks into the front of the side pocket. Now working to round that side pocket, and you can see the bird from the back is starting to take a nice rounded shape. That's what we're going for. We're trying to convey softness in this hard surface. And that's not easy to do, but one way you can do it is make sure there are no hard edges or ridges or straight lines in the bird. I'm just working the back edge of that side pocket there and blending that into the scapulars here. So I can get all this carving done with just this cylindrical saber-tooth burr. And the fine tooth doesn't rip the cork, and yet it allows me to carve relatively quickly. So I think it works well for these cork birds to go with the yellow tooth, which is the fine tooth on the saber-tooth burrs. You can see carving cork is a little messy, even with good dust collection equipment. I had mentioned that before, but I've got it generally rounded and shaped up. I'll keep working on this. Until I'm satisfied with the way it looks. And then I'll be coming back with the sanding drum. And the sanding drum will just give us a much smoother finish, and I can finish sculpting and rounding with the sanding drum as well. starting to shape up. I'm going to use this little flame-shaped or cone-shaped burr to get into the rear edge of the cape here and just put a gentle curve down on that so that there's not a sharp fall off there. We want just a gentle curvature. And this smaller bit allows me to get in here and clean that up. Same thing with this area. I can use this smaller bit and clean up this line between the side pocket and the scapular feathers. And this is a fine burr as well, so same type of finish it's providing. Same thing in this direction. The 3/4 inch burr takes material off quickly, but to really refine things, I like to go to a smaller burr like this. Can get into some of these tighter spots, like around the back of the neck there. I stopped the rough carving quickly just to do some quick dimensional checks. Looks like everything's good. I'm going to carve a little bit of feather group indication on the side pockets, just to cast a little shadow on the white side pocket. And now I'm just going to use my drum sander and sand everything along with shaping those up. Again, I don't want to carve a bunch of detail, but I'm going to use this cone-shaped ruby bit now and go in and just cut a few grooves in here. These side pocket feathers tend to be elongated and kind of wrap in an upward direction. And that's what I'm trying to indicate here. So now that I have the grooves in there, I'm using the edge of that ruby bit to round out in both directions. Again, so we have a nice soft look. We'll cast a little bit of shadow here because most of this side pocket is going to be off whites and bright whites. And I think this will just add a little dimension to that side pocket. That's all we need, but I think that's going to add to the overall look. I'm going to make those a little deeper yet. I'm not trying to indicate every feather, just a few groups that tend to lump up and angle up in this direction to the top of the side pocket. Sorry I'm off camera there, but I'm basically just working those groups to make them nice and round. I don't want to cast a harsh shadow, just a gentle shadow. I'm just using the edge of that bit to clean things up, and then I'll go to my sanding drum, and that'll really soften everything up here. Got my 1/2 inch sanding drum with 150 grit Swiss sandpaper on there, and I'll just use that to finish the job here. I can use the edge, the corner of that cylinder to get into those groove areas. And I'm going to work this for a while until I'm satisfied with the softness. And by that I mean I've got overhead light, a work light right above me, and I'm going to be taking a look at how the shadows are cast. Does it look natural? And even in this raw state, not painted, you can get a good feel for how soft the bird is looking by using that type of overhead lighting. So I'll keep working that until I'm happy with it. All right, I have the bird rough sanded, just to look at those side pockets with a little bit of bumping going on there to give it some structure. I think that's going to look nice, painted white. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of Bondo to go along this neck seam and help disguise the joint and any mismatch between the Tupelo and the cork. And I went along this seam with acetone, make sure all the loose stuff was removed. And I want to keep this very thin and right on the joint, not spread it too much out. That's the process for carving the drake, and now I'm going to do the same thing on the hen. I won't bore you with repeating basically the same process to get this bird shaped up. Once I get her in this form, then we'll come back, take a look at next steps. I'm going to embed some cedar blocks in the bottom here. So I milled out a pocket for those, so we have a nice anchor point for the keel screws rather than just driving them into the cork. And I'm going to add some cork material to the epoxy here, so we get a little more filling activity there. Now I'm going to fill the pocket with that. Make sure I have plenty of material in there to fill around the block. Press that in place and just finish by filling any gaps. So I'll get that work done. Going right over the block so we're sure it's flush. Wipe off excess. Do that on both of these. All right, I got the hen carved, similar fashion to the drake, a little different geometry with the hen. But she's ready, and I got the keels mounted, about 7.5 to 8 ounces of lead. And that puts both birds with their tail right on the water the way I want it. So I've got them sealed up and primed now, and that'll finish the carving portion of the gunning pair of Goldeneye. All right, everybody, that's a wrap on the carving portion of this gunning pair of Common Goldeneye. And in the next session, I will put a how-to painting session together for both of these birds. It'll be a simple gunning paint job, and hopefully that'll be helpful to some of you out there that might want to make your own gunning decoys. Goldeneyes were the first birds I ever made. I hunted on the Portage River in northern Ohio, and I had plastic bluebill decoys along with my mallard decoys. But the Goldeneyes, I'd see a lot of them, but they would fly right on by. And I've told this story before, but I decided I was going to carve some Goldeneye decoys because it just sounded like a fun thing to do. I carved 3 of those, 2 drakes and a hen. The very next hunting trip I went on, I threw them out separate from my bluebill decoys, and the Goldeneyes just wheeled right into those birds. I was hooked on decoy carving at that point, and that was many years ago, probably 1986. Couldn't help but add a quick shot of those first Goldeneyes that I carved. I still have them, and they're pretty rustic, but I used them many years on the Portage River very successfully, and I still have them in my decoy collection. Little story there, but let's get going. I've enjoyed carving these birds with you, and I look forward to painting them as well.